This is Mark Whitten.
This is Adam MacArthur.
This is Ann Yatko.
This is Molly Chung.
Hey everybody, this is Michael Yurchak.
This is Daquan Wilshire.
This is Lexi Nieto.
This is Rico Fajardo, and you're watching.
And you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast. Set your heart ablaze.
All right, so this is episode 188 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky. Thank you for tuning in. This week's guest, I have returning guest, Brandon Jones of the Animation Destination Podcast, and Salem back on the podcast to talk about the Attack on Titan, The Last Attack movie. Whew, that's a lot of words right there. Like when they released that as the title, I'm like, really?
They always got to throw in a bunch of words. It's not as bad as the Dragon Ball Super one, though. Dragon Ball Superhero.
Yeah.
And,
you know, with Attack on Titan, though, like season 4, the way how they released this was like, what? Season 4, part 1, season 4, part 2, and then the specials, part 1, special part 2, you know, and then the movie.
It's the worst.
They were making that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I had Salem on the show, we talked about I think we talked about season 4, part 2 before the specials were released. And so we kind of like talked about how our initial thoughts of the ending, was it going to be a movie? Was it going to be a split up movie or something like that? And we were kind of right. We did get the movie, but I felt like they should have just split it up so much. Had they just released the movie after season 4, part 2, I thought that it would have been great. Like Demon Slayer, kind of great. Like just having folks go in there and watch the movies, and then if they wanted to, they could have just done the Demon Slayer movie and just re-release it as as episodic.
Right.
What did you think, Salem?
Well, I mean, so I was still in the States when the seasons were coming out. So it was kind of, I don't know how you guys watch your anime, but I watch mine on Crunchyroll. And if you've ever watched anything that's really popular as it comes out on Crunchyroll, you know that everything crashes constantly. So it was a lot of like fighting with the app to try and even watch it. So when it was being put out like a normal anime, fine, you just kind of had to wait a few hours before everyone had kind of like watched through it. But in terms of them like kind of just slowly putting it out, and especially because I had read the manga, so it had been over for a while. And so it was really just me waiting for them to finish it. And it did feel like they were really taking their time. Whereas like with Demon Slayer, I feel like they're doing it pretty quickly. Like they're doing those movies and they're pushing them out. They're not kind of like making you wait and moving back and forth. So I wish it was done more that way if they wanted to really focus on the movie aspect.
Yeah.
Slight tangent here. Demon Slayer tickets dropped today of this recording in the States. They dropped. So if you haven't bought your tickets yet, please do. Salem was lucky enough to go watch it in theaters. I'm still jealous. So if you
that's awesome.
Yeah, we talked about it on our free run episode. So I'm so jealous she got to go watch the movie.
We're getting it early though. We're getting it September 9th now instead of the 11th. So we're getting it early. So
yeah, but that's like through Fandango, and you got to sign up with them, and all these extra steps.
It's only 2 days. It's only 3 days
watch
early.
The movie.
So.
Yeah, but I bought my tickets for the Thursday night show.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
awesome.
I was joking with my cousin Bobby. We were like, "Did Salem go watch the movie with the manga in hand so like she can read the subtitles as the movie's playing because they don't have subtitles in Japan?"
You know what? I will say I catch about 40% of Japanese at this point, so I go back and I read whatever I'm like. When I went and saw Attack on Titan in theaters too, I would go back and read the chapters.
Nice.
So then I have like a pretty good memory of it, and then I just try to match up with what's happening.
Yeah, that's cool.
What was your experience like, Salem, watching that in theaters, though? Because, Brandon, you watch in theaters or you watch it at home?
I watched it at home, yeah.
Same with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually watched it the day it came out at the 11:30 p.m. one. So this was also pretty early in me living in Japan. So when you moved to a foreign country, I was already feeling all kinds of things. I was like all by myself. And I was like, man, was this like the right choice? And then I go in and watch literally probably like the most emotionally damaging thing that has ever happened to me in theaters in the middle of the night when I have to like walk home afterwards in the dark. But I think it was me and like 4 other people in the theater, because I also lived in a really small town at this point. So it's me and like 3 other guys. We're all just sitting there. It was awesome in IMAX, and actually watching it in the sub, I think the voice acting was really, really well done, because I always watch it in both. And I think the English dub is really well done.
Mhm.
But I think specifically for this part and in the movie, it was so impactful. And hearing the music, and the whole theater is like rumbling with all of the noise. I don't know. It was such a good experience, which is why I keep going to movies here, even though obviously I'm not fluent in the language. But it was such a cool experience to have also in the middle of the night. So like I just got to walk home and I was like, well, like that's it. It's over now. Like everything's totally done. I mean, this was a story in a manga that fundamentally is what led me to Japan. Attack on Titan was my first manga and anime that I ever interacted with.
Wow.
So it's like a full circle moment of like, I started Attack on Titan in high school on a whim when I was like really sad and like didn't have a whole lot going on. And then I ended it in Japan by myself.
Yeah.
It was a really cool moment for me, like emotionally as well. So like also it was really cool, but
That's awesome.
Yeah, so to continue on with the emotional aspects of Attack on Titan, the movie starts off with like the rumbling, because the end of season 4 part 2, Eren becomes the founding Titan in his colossal form, or his lizard looking body, and he awakens all the colossal Titans within the walls.
Yeah.
And I think watching the movie again, just like it definitely showed the horror of what happens when Eren releases these Titans against the world, and seeing how humanity is like, running for their lives. And even the beginning of the movie where the 2 little kids that were saving the money. I don't know. This part just like kind of hit hard for me, because like when it comes to the end of the world, money doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And those kids were like bearing the money, and he was like, oh, we're gonna save money and not be slaves anymore, or we're gonna escape. And then the rumbling comes, and then everyone's running for their lives, and then they skip to where where Hanji's seen, right?
Yeah.
Right when you think they're about to escape, Block amazingly survived and ruins everything, and then we get Hanji's death. Now, for me, Hanji's death is probably the second saddest death for me. I still teared up watching that. So Brandon, we'll start with you. What was your thoughts on Hanji's death in this part of the Attack on Titan movie?
Inevitable. No, no. Hanji was there to, it's the whoever leads the scouts dies, man. That's just how it is. It's just that's their fate essentially. But no, it's a really good death. They did a much better job in the anime conveying that she was actually delaying the Titans in a certain way, because in the manga she like kind of like cuts down 2 of them and you don't really notice that they stumble on each other. It didn't seem like she bought them any time, but in the movie they do show you specifically like she actually buys them time to get on the ship and out of there. So but yeah, the scene where she looks up and Erwin is there, and it's just that's
oh
great.
My god,
that's a great spot. I love that one. It's so it hits you right where you need to. So
and what about you, Salem? What are your thoughts on Hanji's death?
Hanji I'm not going to say is my favorite character. So this was so symbolic to me. Also, I want to note before I forget the way that they use music in her death. Was it Baklatse? So we've heard that in season 1, like way back. We hear that, and it's this moment of the scouts kind of like they're coming back and they're gonna do this, like it's a hopeful song, and they replay it in Hanji's death scene, which I think is so impactful, because it's the same type of thing that we're seeing of like this is still the scouts rallying, but it's such a more bleak situation because we know the enemy that they're up against was not so simple as it was in season 1. Like this is their friend now. So I do think they recomposed that song really well too, where it's more haunting. It's a lot more sad and not as like pumped, like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're fighting. It's more of a, we're still fighting and now it's worse.
Yeah.
So I love that scene. And I agree with Brandon. In the manga, it was a little unclear, like what was actually happening. And we rarely see Hanji fight. Hanji is very much like a brains character. But in this scene, especially in the anime, we see she's taking down colossal titans, like multiple of them.
Yeah.
So she's been an adept fighter this entire time. And I think that adds another depth to it of she has always been able and capable of causing this kind of like mass violence that we see everyone else that's pretty capable of doing. But she only enacts it when she's saving her friends and like buying them time for the world. So I think that was a great kind of end. It was a good death.
Yeah.
I will also say in the manga, it was a little unclear to me that she was on fire at some point. So it was, don't worry, it was very clear in the anime that she was on fire. But I think the scene between her and Levi.
I was going to bring that up too. Oh my God. When Levi's like, I was about to say set your heart ablaze. Wrong anime.
I mean, she was ablaze.
She was, yeah.
Oh my God.
That interaction to show the depth between the two of them, because they're really the only two left from the original, you know, the original group who had this idea of like the scouts were to discover, they were to explore. It was curiosity and knowledge based. Even with Erwin, when it was selfish, he still wanted to know. And so as we see Hanji die, there's really only this one person left who has the embodiment of the original group, which I think is very much housed in Armin. So her passing it to Armin really makes sense to me. I know some people are a little like, why would you choose Armin? But it's the same reason Levi chose Armin.
Levi chose Armin, yeah.
Yep.
He is the embodiment of what the scouts are and should continue to be, not where they have gone. So I think that whole Hanji's entire death encapsulates so much of what the scouts represent and how they carry it on. And I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire series.
Just seeing them break down in the airplane and like that shot for shot panel that they did, and then just seeing Levi in the corner there, he's like bye Hanji, like, oh my God, I get so emotional thinking about it still. Like after even watching it last night, I was like, man, like that was Levi's last like real connection to someone that was like with him, and like you said, Salem, in his group. You know, he loses Erwin, he loses everyone, his team, and then Hanji's it, and then Hanji's gone. And
I mean, even before the scouts, he loses, you know, it's Farland. I can't remember her name, but he's just lost everybody. And I love a good strongest character who can't save anyone.
Yeah. He ends up crippled by the end of this too. So it's like, you know, everything that the scouts were prior to it were kind of gone, but they had done the job. Like that was the whole thing, was that they were to basically free humanity, free the island. And, you know, they ended up doing it all, sacrificing it all. It's great.
So let's move on to the battle of heaven and earth, because this is a big chunk of the movie, seeing that the team has finally caught up to Eren. You know, you see the Marleyans and the Eldians that's in Marley. They're finally working together, shooting cannons at Eren, but nothing's working. And then once they fight Eren, they realize they're fighting pretty much what's the Titan? The Warhammer Titan versions of the other Titans, right? Yeah. And so just the initial jump scene when they jump out the plane and Armin and Mikasa and Connie and John, everyone jumps out. I love that. I get so hyped watching it. Just seeing like Reiner jump out the plane and pretty much do an Eren pose, like he bites his hand, jumps out and reenacts what Eren does. Yeah. Phenomenal scene. Brandon, we'll start with you again. You know, what was your thoughts seeing this finally, like this final battle, like be played out in this movie?
The one that I really cared about, because like it's fun to see like the old, like even the old Jaws Titans and stuff like that. Like you saw all these characters you hadn't get to see, or they hadn't been around for a bit. You get to see Ymir's Jaws Titan again, stuff like that, which is great. But the part that I was super stoked about that we got to see Zeke. That was like because here's the thing. I'm very sympathetic to a lot of the Titan shifters when they were brought over, like Annie. Reiner's probably my favorite character of the whole series. Bert gets a big squat right across his face from this show. It's like he doesn't he gets kind of brutalized, but like I feel for them. I don't feel shit for Zeke. I don't know why. Like, because it's the same situation. Like he was like indoctrinated as a child and all that, and like he ended up betraying his parents. It's like he's like, but just the smugness that he is introduced with, I can't get it out of my face. Like I can't not see him as that smug bastard as the ape, and seeing Levi finally get to off him is my favorite part of the whole fight. It's just so cathartic that he finally gets offed by him. I loved it. So that's my big moment from it. So
What about you, Salem?
I do just want to call to attention that random man in the Marleyan military that makes the incredible speech that we literally never see again.
Yeah.
I love that part of this. Just random character just makes the most impactful speech of probably one of the most impactful speeches of the entire series.
Yeah.
That calls attention, like the cycle of hatred that's kind of circling back to them. But I loved that scene. But in terms of the actual battle itself, I love Annie. So getting to see her, we almost see like a softer side of her in this battle because of Armin. Like the second that Armin is snatched away, we don't see Annie connect with really anyone. Like even her own teammates, like Bertolt and Reiner, like she really doesn't care about anyone but her dad. And so in this part where everyone else is kind of hardening, we actually see Annie, who is probably very adept at doing all of this without it phasing her, softening. So I love that juxtaposition of her actually softening to this, and she didn't want to fight when she normally just would do it. So seeing her work together with Mikasa was so cool. They're unstoppable together. But I do also really like the Zeke scene. But less, I actually do. I love Zeke as a character just because of the chaos that he kind of brings into everyone.
Oh yeah.
But the scene of Levi killing him was always kind of heartbreaking to me, because if you look at the panel where Levi finally does behead him, Levi doesn't look happy.
No, not at all.
He is like he is realizing that Zeke is making a sacrifice. This wasn't really a win. This was Zeke being like, I understand how I can help in what I have caused, and I'm going to do it. And Levi was just the sword, which he has been the entire series.
Yeah.
So I think that was also a lot of this fight, and this last part of the anime is just these full circle moments of like, this character started out as this. They have kind of full circled into all of these other things, but they still end up really in the same place they were and have always been.
Yeah. It's even sort of posited that Zeke kind of knows what's going on, because he's like kind of a part of Eren in this sense. So he probably even knows that Eren knows that this is like, I have to be killed in this manner, essentially, to get rid of the worm and all that stuff. What do they call that thing? The
parasite or what? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's like the
life.
The central of all life or something. It's some weird title. But yeah, like that's, you kind of get this sense that he understands that, like, oh yeah, like we have to die here. Like this is exactly what this was meant to be. But speaking to Annie, like that's my favorite Annie scene in the whole show and manga, is when she breaks down and just tells Mikasa that she just doesn't want to fight her anymore. Like it's like, I've been fighting my entire life. I just can't do it anymore. It's such a beautiful scene. So Yeah, because that's what's so good is everybody wants to see that fight. Like they want to see that rematch, and for him to give you the idea is like she's not going to fight her. Like this isn't like no, like it's like she doesn't want to fight anymore. It's like that. It's such a good rip away from that. So,
it was never that she wanted to fight. It's that she felt like she had to.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to add on about the whole Levi part, like where he talks about how he complains about like why is Erwin's last command for me the hardest thing to do?
Yeah.
And how he struggled to kill Zeke every time. And
Mhm.
I like to what Salem said. I never really caught that. So that's a really eye-opening part for me, like to see his face is like he's not.
Yeah.
It wasn't a real win for him because it was given to him.
Yeah.
And Levi was so focused. His sole purpose was to kill Zeke. And man, just like to see that. When the opportunity came, he went for it, and I love that moment where Zeke's like, "Hey, Levi, I'm right here," like hello, and Levi just takes off. He's like, "I'm killing you."
We do see such an introspective moment from Zeke in that moment too, where I really appreciated it because we do like really throughout the whole series we hate Zeke because he is this like villainous, like super intelligent. He knows what's happening. He knows what's going on, and he wants it to go the way that he wants it to go. We do get backstory in the last season of like obviously he is a victim of everything else that everybody was a victim of. But we see him kind of looking out and being like, well, I could have just wanted to live. I could have just played catch forever. Like it would have been fine just the way that it was. So it was nice to see him also make his full circle of like, I could have just existed if everything else would have just been fine.
Yeah. I'd probably feel bad for him if it wasn't for how he killed Mike. That was like that was the most brutal thing. And that's his first scene. And I'm just like, I can't let it go. I can't let it go. He did him dirty, and I can't let it go.
Yeah, all of it was very kind of evil.
Yeah.
Have you seen like the meme they did with the 100 men versus the gorilla, and then the gorilla was Zeke, like that's the gorilla we're fighting. Like, oh my god! And then he talks. I love the joke too, like because you can hear him talk. It's like, yep, no one will know that. No one will know this, and he kills the last guy.
Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious. I wanted to add on to what because you guys mentioned about Annie. I like rewatching the movie, I went back and looked at the frames and like seeing how everyone was waving goodbye to Annie, and Levi was just sitting there. Oh my god! Like he just looks at her deadpan face, just like nope,
killed Petra, man.
I
can't let that go.
It is because it's interesting that Levi has this kind of like soldier mindset as well. So I do feel like even within this process, he's kind of had to grapple with like even the enemy has their own, like they're humans, right? Like it was easy when it was monsters. Even when Levi found out that they were humans, he had this entire like, we've been killing people this whole time.
Right.
So it's nice. At least he wasn't nasty.
Yeah. Right.
It was even that's a step forward for him where he's just like, I'm just going to stay quiet.
I think it's a massive leap that he doesn't try to cut her head off. I think because it's Levi. So it's like, that's a huge leap for him. It's like,
I think one good moment he had too was like when he's finally walking up and trying to get out the ship. He's like, I got to talk to that bearded bitch. And I was like, who's he even talking about? He's like, oh, it's Yelena. Like he doesn't like her either, so he wants to get her. I thought that was a good comedic moment. But back to the battle of heaven and earth, man. Like I love seeing everyone's teamwork. Everyone got their time to shine. I think for me, Peak was the one that I was like, holy shit, she's cool. Her endurance to shift back and forth and then like catch up to the head and then only to get caught by the Warhammer Titan. But then she played it cool. She just waited, and then took her moment to do what she had to do. And then, Reiner being another big one, fighting off all those other armored Titans, the other Warhammer Titans and the other female and claw Titans. It was cool seeing that. I liked how they did that a lot too. Like, him grabbing the weapons and like, okay, so Reiner's like very adept with weapon fighting as well. Like he's not just all hands.
Yeah.
And I really like seeing, Connie and John like go out there, and it made me think back of like season 1 where they're doing like the reviews, right? They're like, oh, John is one of the better ones with the with the maneuver gear. Connie's very quick and he's witty, you know, so like a lot of that comes back full circle with their characteristics and how they fight together as a unit.
Yeah.
But you know, with Armin, right? Armin gets in there, he gets taken within like the first 5 minutes. What was your thoughts on like Armin's whole, I guess, point of view as he's being taken into the paths? You know, because he's not fighting up and he doesn't fight until like towards the end.
Yeah.
You know, the whole time he's just like doing a mental warfare. So, Salem, let's start with you. What was your thoughts on Armin's part in this battle?
So I think Armin has always, I mean, obviously throughout the entire series, has never been a fighter. And he's always said that, like, you know, I don't fight. He's always had Mikasa and Eren to fight for him. So we see him put in this position where he is literally fighting Eren. And I think it's going a lot similarly as their fist fight went, right? Where it's like, there's no chance for him. And so I think one of the great parts about Armin's entire fighting in this is that when he gets taken, it takes the entire group to try and get him back, but he's still in paths with Zeke.
Mhm.
I think his entire speech to himself is heartbreaking. Like, we get to finally see that. I mean, even within the fandom, people are like, oh, Armin is useless. He just cries, all of these different things. But I think Armin embodies humanity. Like emotionally, like intelligently, the curiosity, like he stays soft and optimistic throughout this entire series, regardless of what's happening around him. So it does make sense that he would be the first thing snatched in this giant, you know, battle of humanity. They're taking that out from underneath, you know, everyone else. And so everyone else trying to get Armin back, to me, like symbolizes that what they're fighting for. It's not just them. It's not just their group. It's not just parody. It's for everything. It's for everybody. So when we see Armin really talking himself down and like screaming at himself, like that was, I think, a moment where we see someone who's pretty routinely optimistic and like really smart and intelligent and strategically oriented just unleash everything that he just feels useless. And yet everybody is going to go get him. Despite, I mean, all he can really do is nuke the place, right? Which is not really what they want to do anyway. So I just think that entire scene of him yelling at himself and then getting into paths to talk to Zeke, and that's Armin's strong suit, right? It's what he's always been able to do. It's what humanity does to connect. He's been good at talking. And so, of course, it makes sense to me that the way he wins his battle and ultimately saves everybody is a conversation.
Mhm.
So I think that's a beautiful thing, especially with Zeke, who has been very steadfast in his position. Like, no one and nothing has convinced Zeke otherwise. And Zeke barely knows this man. Like, when Armin walks up, he's like, oh, you're Aaron's friend. Like, doesn't even know his name. And yet Armin is able to bring that humanity, the baseball, to Zeke and really tug on his preconceived notions of what he thinks should happen or what is inevitable, and remind him that humanity always has a choice, and he has a choice that will make a difference for everybody else.
Yep, that reach in for, like, everybody has their freedom. You know, they have their freedom to choose. You can choose not to murder everybody, although there's like 20% left.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a good one.
It took me a while to kind of like digest that moment where we read the mangas, we've seen how Isayama write or how they write the panels when it comes to dialogue. It's a lot to read.
Mhm.
And so rewatching this like once or twice, and it took me like a good minute to digest what their conversation was, seeing that, okay, Armin is convincing Zeke that, you know, like what Salem said, he has a choice, whether it was the euthanization plan or whether it was, you know, to destroy the enemies or destroy the parody. You know, at the end, it's always going to be humanity, and, you know, how do we stop this cycle of hate? And I like that, you know, when they picked up what they found, or at least what they thought was most treasurable for them. Like, you know, for Armin, it was the leaf at the tree. For
Yeah.
Zeke, it was the baseball.
Mhm.
And I like that Zeke has this moment where he's like, man, all I wanted to do was play catch. Like, that was when I was the most happiest. I didn't think about the war. I didn't think about like my duty as a soldier. Like, this is what made me happy. And I'm seeing that the other embodiments of the other Titans, like Casaver, Grisha, and the other Aaron, and even Bertho, like they all come together and they're just like giving each other this final moment, this final talk. And Armin's final moment, Berto too, and he's like, dude, I'm sorry I did this to you. Like I took your memories, I took what you wanted, and I took your power from you. And I personally, I kind of wish that they did probably, I wanted them to at least conversate. It kind of just looked weird that they just stood there and looked so like statue-esque and like soulless.
Right.
But I did like that, and seeing that was closure for these characters. And then again, to see that Zeke is the one, all right, he makes the choice and then he gets his ending. Do you guys have anything to add on to that as well? Like just seeing how how Ymir kind of was in the past with them, knowing that like this was happening. You guys have anything to add to that?
I have thoughts about Ymir in general, but I'm sure we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. It's just seeing how Armin is being able to talk his way out of conflict, which I thought was great because he does that in the very beginning when he defends Eren too. And I like that. This is what Armin's good at. Is he's good at talking his way out of fights and trying to find the most peaceful resolution for things. And then once he gets his moment, he does his attack. They stop Eren, and then the worm comes out. And this moment I really like too, because Peak mentions it, where she's like, don't stop Reiner's resolve because it'll ruin his moment. He's fighting right now, so let him do his thing. I really like that, just to see that Reiner's fighting nonstop throughout this whole thing. And then also like you see, actually let me backtrack a little bit, because when Falco comes into the fight, he gets his wings, and Brandon talks about this in his episode too, where the evolution of Falco from like the bird, like baby bird Titan, to where he's at now, which I never caught on to that until I listened to Brandon's episode. So folks, go check that out. But I love seeing that growth for Falco too, and then just seeing all this unfold in this fight, just to see that like, okay, they stop Eren, and then they, right when you think everything's good, everything goes to shit again. The folks turn to the Titans. Eren's back on his feet, and then we get the final moment. They're trying to stop the essence of life. Mikasa and Levi are like the only ones who can kill Eren. So what was your thoughts on this, like, I guess Elden Ring-esque boss battle? Because like right when you think it's over, they come back. You're low HP, no more items. Salem, we'll start with you. What was your thoughts on this like epic moment?
I mean, obviously, it's very important to the ending of the series, considering the end is kind of like, oh, it's always been Mikasa, right? I think the moment between Mikasa and Levi is really important. I think Levi gets a ton of chances to shine in these final moments in the series, where Levi has lost everybody at this point. And so I think he's one of the best people to be with Mikasa in this moment. Because we see even Annie kind of does some damage control when she really starts to panic, and she's like, don't worry about like what you have to do, like just focus on getting Armin, like really centers her. But now they're on Falco, and they're like, we have to do this. And I love that Levi says we, because it's never we, right? Like he knows it has to be Mikasa. He's like incredibly damaged at this point. I'm shocked at the scene where he is, cutting through things and still moving, because he's been through everything. His leg is gone. His eye is gone. He only has like half of his fingers at this point. And Mikasa is relatively untouched. All of this final battle for her, while everyone else is, taking this physical damage, like really fighting, like Reina, just like he has the whole series, is just getting the shit kicked out of him. He's in there. But for Mikasa, it's all mental. She is fighting psychologically this entire time to try and grapple with what she should do. So I think in this moment where we're finally seeing her, stand up, she's reflecting on, the life that Eren had given her in Paths, and probably reflecting on her own like feelings about everything. And when she gets up and ties her scarf, and she's like, I'm never going to forget this, like essentially saying she's always going to love Eren, and like really treasure everything that he's given her, but she's making her own choice and she's going to do it.
Yeah.
It is such an intense scene. And I also think it lends that no one else really knew where Aaron was. But Mikasa knew, like she knew exactly where to go. And so, of course, you get the iconic scene where she's smiling when she kills him, which is such a stark contrast to what Levi just went through with Zeke.
Yeah.
Right. Where Levi should be smiling and happy and doing all of the, like, finally get Zeke. We see Mikasa having to do something that was unfathomable to her throughout the entire series. But she does it with a smile. So I think those two scenarios and comparing them side by side, the Ackermans really just get the worst end of the stick.
They do. Yep.
This series. But I think it just shows Isayama really does think about these original scenarios. There's so much in this last chunk of the series that mirrors so much in the early series.
Yeah.
And you, Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, to echo that, like, just change doesn't come without sacrifice. It's kind of like a running theme through the whole thing. There has to be something you're willing to give up, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, just the one of my favorite affirmations when I was reading the manga, and then it comes up in the anime too, but just the idea that, like, he puts it, they put in the idea that, like, oh, you want to protect Eren because of Ackerman blood. That's the whole reason. You don't really, so to have that whole thing be a superpower and then her devotion to Eren be part of that superpower. And then he's talking to Zeke, and Zeke's like, nah, that's not a thing, dude. I think she just loves you. It's just like, he literally just affirms, like, no, that's not real. Like, yeah, he's like, it's even like he's asking Zeke at that point when he's undercover as, like, the patient, and he's like trying to affirm it himself. I think he's like, why is she, like, so devoted? And Zeke just tells him, like, yeah, dude, she just digs you, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like she wants to, she's in love with you, bro. And that's true to the whole thing. And again, there's that everyone's a slave to something. You're a slave to love. You're a slave to this. You're a slave to money. You're a slave to, servitude, whatever it is. So it's a perfect little thing. She loves him, but she has to kill him. It's crazy. But on the other side, with the battle with the essence of life and stuff like that, like you said, like Ricky said, it was like, just they were on the ups. Everybody was, everything was looking good, and then all of a sudden, like, because I'm waiting for, like, people to, like, really start dying in this last fight or whatever, and there's not a lot of that. Zeke's the only final death. Zeke and Eren are the only final deaths in this fight. Like, there's no, which is crazy, because, like, they show you the Marleyans, like, the riot that's happening, and then there's fire that opens up, and stuff. But then that gets proven to be, oh, that's not a slaughter. Like, that was just one fire that happened, and they didn't kill each other. They actually, like peace prevailed in that sense. And then they all meet up with their parents again, and, like, it's a sad moment. And then they all get turned into titans. You're like, oh my god, there's no way to stop this now. And then they kill the essence of life, and everybody gets turned back into people. And it's just like, oh, like, to take it to the lowest lows and then come back up to the point to where you get a happy ending for everybody other than Eren, is great. I think it's awesome.
I think it's a happy ending for Eren.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's just he can't have the happy ending, and he figured that out at the beginning of the season. So
right.
Yeah,
we were just catching up. Like, he knew he couldn't have the happy ending. So
I love
thought,
that it's Rhina. No, you're fine. I love that it's Rhina that's fighting the essence of life. When we see him earlier in the season, literally going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Someone who, like, really doesn't want to live.
Yeah.
Fighting for everyone.
He's been begging to die this whole time. Like,
he has at every turn been like, I'll go.
Just let me die, please.
Right.
Like, he just, like, oh no.
He literally is fighting life.
Yeah.
And ends up, I mean, he was a tank. He was doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Reiner's, like, whole story arc is probably my favorite in Attack on Titan. Just to see that him being, they build him up like, oh, he's cool, and then, oh, he's a traitor, and then, like, holy shit, he's, like, suicidal. Like, so many so many emotions going through this character, and then you get his backstory, his lore. Like he only was doing this for affirmations for his mom, and he wanted to be free of being like, a slave in Marley. He wanted to do good things and be recognized as a warrior, and all that pressure just broke him throughout this whole show. And then at the end, when he finally, like, his mom consoles him, she's like, "Oh, you were all I ever needed." And oh my God, hits home. It hits home. Just seeing that, Reiner had all these things he wanted to prove, and it just comes down to like his mom was like, "You don't have to prove anything. Like you are what I need." I love that scene so much. But just to kind of to add on what Brandon said, seeing everyone turn into Titans. I remember reading that in the manga, and I was like, "Holy shit! It's game over. Everyone's dying." You see Gabby get turned. You see John and Connie get turned, and I was like, "Holy crap, man! This is a crazy way to go out." And just to kind of tease us with that, like, this is what could have happened, but nope, like that's done. Like everyone survives at the end.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Their
it's
conversation at the end is so, like, John and Connie, when they're like, "Man, this is all your fault. Like you do this. Like it was such a human moment, right? Of like, death didn't really scare them at this point. They're just like, man, this sucks."
Yeah. And then they have the ultimate moment where they see Sasha in the fog. That's one of my favorite moments. So
the salute to everyone else for Levi.
Dude, that part, like Levi and Sasha, like the part where they see Sasha, I think I guess it's the music too, when the music's playing and everything, and just like in the manga you see Levi's face, but in the anime they don't show it, but you do see like the teardrop fall on his face, like he saw everyone, like Erwin, Hanji, his team, the Levi squad. And I think you said this before on the podcast, you say, like when we talked about season 4 part 2, you said like the strongest characters are the ones that are the loneliest, right? Her like Mikasa and Levi are the ones that like the most powerful ones in Attack on Titan, yet they lose everything, they're by themselves. And like just to see Levi is like the epitome of that. He's the last one standing because he was so great, but he loses everybody, and at the end he's just by himself. And that was really heartbreaking to see. And then again to see like Sasha come up for Connie and John, like I don't know, it makes me think of like when like where they talked about like it has, like, I'm glad that we survived, like, when they're hugging each other before Sasha's inevitable death. Like my God, it just, I still can't forgive Gabby for that.
Yeah. Well, and those like final moments too, that what I like to look at it as, like, because we know that the militaristic aspect of parody is still happening long after the series, but these salutes where, especially Levi's to everyone else, I think that's the last true scout salute that happens in the series. But like, that was it. This is the end. This is what the scouts were for, and that Levi doing it to everyone else, and there's just probably rows and rows of people in paths, right, that he's lost, and he's like, this was it. This was what we wanted, and we won. And that final salute, that I feel like that panel is so important to the rest of the series.
Yeah,
I do think it's funny too, like how before Hanji died, she mentions to Levi like, "Oh, you never saluted or said that before," and for Levi to be like, give your heart out, like, and it's because in the anime, like throughout this whole series, like he doesn't. I don't think we ever see him do it, and so he does it for Hanji, and then at the end, that's it.
Yeah.
So as we see the ending for this, everyone is the fights calm down, but then there's also the moment where Mikasa has Aaron's head, and I don't know, man, the way how the actress for Armin, how she does this like cry, this like this, how can I describe it?
Wail.
It's like, that's wail, because like for me personally, I've heard like this kind of cry before. Like when I had a family member lose their son, I remember like hearing his mom just like wail like that. And the way how this actress does it just sends shivers down my spine. Like I don't know where she gets this from. Like how does she like get the energy to do that? But man, it's so chilling to hear that. And seeing Armin like just break down. Like this whole time, he's like, "Yeah, we got to kill Aaron. Yeah, we're gonna kill you, Aaron." And then at the end, when Aaron is dead, he's like, he just falls apart. And oh my god, that's such a brutal scene.
I feel like Armin didn't know that the plan changed because he was in past for so long. So I like to think that was him realizing that they did actually have to kill Aaron because he was still, you know, he wasn't with the group. He didn't realize what was going to happen. He's like, well, maybe we can still get to Aaron and talk to him. So I feel like Mikasa kind of being like, this is what had to happen. It was him fully realizing like, oh, that was the path that we had to take.
Yeah.
Because he was locked in battle like that whole time. He was not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of like the whole paths with Armin and Aaron, you know, like as they're going through like reflecting on life and the choices that they make? Brandon, we'll start with you. You know, what was your thoughts on like I guess like the step-by-step process of how they were talking? Because like, you know, they go from childhood through their memories,
Right.
see like the things they wanted to see in Armin's grandfather's book.
Yeah.
And then up until like the climactic part of their conversation. So what are your thoughts on that, Brandon?
Well, it's brilliant because, you know, Armin is the one that sort of set Aaron on the path to freedom and to where it happens even earlier than that, we learn. But he sets him on that path to search for freedom and like and then you start to dig into the idea of like, what is freedom? Is it just going out there? And then, you have that dichotomy of like Mikasa and Armin finally seeing the sea, and they're happy to see it. And at that point, Aaron has already kind of like, he knows his destiny at that point. So he's not even happy. He's just pointing out and being like, so we got to kill everybody over there, right? And like, and like they're not even thinking of that. They're just happy to be at the beach that they've never seen before, and now Aaron's thinking further, like, we're not free yet. We have to go further. So, just this idea that he has this obsession, this time looped obsession of getting to the point to where Mikasa can cut his head off. It's this, Ouroboros eating its own head type of mentality that he's got, and finally, like, Armin's kind of seeing that he was an influence to him reaching that level because he taught him about, like all the things that he wasn't able to see. But there is one massively good change that the anime does that the manga did, which was removing the line "thank you for committing genocide." It's like, I understand, like, it's very clear what he meant when he was saying it. It's just not something you can really like empathize with, but like just the idea that he's becoming the villain for them. Essentially, he's Lelouching this whole thing and becoming the villain, which I don't know if you guys predicted it when reading the manga. I kind of like figured that's what he was probably doing, and why he had like the fight scene with Armin, the beat down, and then like, mentally destroyed Mikasa. I feel like he was like, he's trying to get them to hate him. That's what he's trying to do, because he wants this to be a thing. I didn't think they'd be talking in his head, by that point, having a whole conversation of throughout time. They do keep one thing, which is probably the one thing that I'm not a fan of with it, where he redirects what's her name? His Zeke's mom. What is her name?
Not Grisha, but I know you're talking the Smiling Titan.
Yeah, he redirects the Smiling Titan, or it's implied that in that time frame he redirects the Smiling Titan to go kill his mother, to enact this whole cycle of his life of becoming this thing. I didn't think that was necessary. I thought it was much more poignant that like she was searching for Grisha. That's why she was there. So it had already sort of hit that cycle moment. I didn't think you needed Aaron kind of like directing the Smiling Titan to that area, but that's a small critique. It's not a big deal. I understand what he's trying to do. It's just, it's like it's a never ending cycle of fate and stuff like that, which makes perfect sense. It's more impactful that he made his dad eat the royal family. I think that's one of the best scenes in the It's one of the most messed up, awesome scenes in the whole series. It's like, get up and eat these people, you pussy. Like, what are you doing? Like, just like, oh my God, he's making his dad do this. It's crazy. He's lost it. It's so good. Like, they do such a good job of like making Aaron, out to be this monster for like a whole season. And then you have this like crash down realization moment that it's like, this was all for this was all to free humanity from the Titans. It's the only way it could have looped around to this. And it's a crazy perspective to have. It's like, obviously, like, you can't justify genocide in any way, but in this weird little fantasy world where like, what is his decision? What's he gonna do to save everybody? Got to remove that power. Got to remove the nukes. And the Titans were the nukes. So,
And Salem, what are your thoughts on this whole process between Armin and Aaron?
I also am very glad they removed that line. I think not only is it an unrelatable line, but I also think it does Armin's character such a disservice. Because throughout the entire series, what obviously I've talked about it previously, where like Armin embodies humanity.
yeah.
So him thanking Aaron for any of this felt weird.
Yeah.
Especially because we see Armin on the roof just a couple episodes prior, or even at the beginning of the movie, I think, with Mikasa, watching all of this happen in like horror. So I think this was more done. We see various circumstances where Armin is very manipulative with his words. Like, we see him manipulate people, knowingly doing it. Like when he was in the prison and he's talking and he's like trying to get them out and, kind of weaseling his way through. So we know Armin has the capacity to use his eloquence as a weapon. It's the reason they shot him in the mouth when the two scouts were, so he couldn't talk anymore and couldn't weasel his way out of it. So I think this was an instance of him doing it to make Aaron feel okay. I don't think it reflected any of Armin's actual feelings. I mean, obviously he loves Aaron, and is sad that this is what happened. But I do think the whole thanking scene, or really any of it, of like, thank you for becoming the villain for us, it was much more for Aaron than it was coming from Armin's heart. And we see that in like the hug, like he's really trying to like reassure him. And even in that point, he's like, you don't have to choose this.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do this. And I do think that circles back to like what he was talking to Zeke about. It's another parallel, where there is a choice. And I think that's maybe where we differ in opinion. I think there was a choice. And I think just like everyone else in the series was a slave to something, Aaron's a slave to freedom.
Yeah.
And so there was a choice, but he was never going to choose it.
The choice is there. And obviously I would, just to make I would choose not genocide. That is what I would choose. Just to affirm. But what I love about Aaron's situation is that from his point of view, what he wants to accomplish, he just is going to watch his friends die in an endless cycle. He's going to watch Krista die because she has to give birth to someone who's going to eat her, to just keep this whole site. That's the only way they can defend themselves against this, this other force. If they don't do that, they get overwhelmed by that force and they all die anyway. So it was just, this whole thing was just to protect the people that he cared about. And there's not a whole way out of it. Obviously, you make the bad sacrifice, or you make the long play. That's what Armin wanted to do. That's what Mikasa wanted to do. And, Historia would definitely gladly give her life to continue like a path towards peace and a path towards not having this conflict again and not erasing 80% of humanity. Like, that's something that everyone would do. But I just like that idea that, like, from Aaron's point of view, to protect everyone he cares about, he has to do this from his point. And it's obviously, yes, I agree. There's definitely other plays, but to accomplish his goal that he had to fight for, it's like I gotta crush this kid in the market with the giant titans.
Yeah.
It's like, and after I had a drink with them, that's like the most brutal part, is like they drank with them in their camp and stuff, and even then he knew he was gonna kill them. Like it just, it's so brutal. It's just like, oh my god.
I do think too that we see. I think my main issue with Aaron's choice is that a lot of his friends were gonna die because of his choice anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, it still feels like less of it's to save everyone, because Hanji still died. I mean, if it weren't for everyone else making these choices against him, Jean and Connie would have died. All of these different aspects of his friends dying, everyone would still die. So I feel like it was so focused on Mikasa and Armin. But I fully believe Armin would have died fighting as well. Yeah. So it's hard for me to be like, oh, he did it to save his friends, because his friends would have died against him anyways. Which, I mean, we see in the extra chapters, which I love Isayama for, that it didn't matter anyways. In the grand scheme of things, humans are humans who will fight and cause war regardless of the presence of Titans, or whether it be Titans, missiles, whatever. But I do love his character of like, this was his choice. This is what he wanted to do. I think even at one point he says, I was going to do this anyway. Like once I learned there was life outside, it needed to be a clean slate. Like I wanted it to be what I wanted. And I think that kind of really mirrors some like almost imperialism kind of things, where like what he wanted to be out there was not what was there. So he was going to make it that way.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that too, because he does talk to Armin about that. He's like, I knew what I was going to do and I did it. And I only did it so that you guys would have the opportunity to defend yourselves. If 80% of the population is gone, they can't fight you guys. Parodies will have time to rebuild and defend themselves, and you guys would be like the powerhouse of the world. And that way you guys don't have to go and fight the wars that are going to be caused, which doesn't matter anyway, because like Salem said, people kill each other at the end. Initially, I will say this, initially I was on Aaron's side, because we're seeing, again, viewers, we are seeing this in Aaron's point of view.
That's the point. You're supposed to be on his side.
So
there's a very direct point where you go, uh-oh.
So being a Attack on Titan fan, I was just like all for Aaron. Like, yep, if I was Aaron, I would do it. Because in all honesty, I will say this on my show, if I was in Aaron's shoes, I'd probably pull some crazy shit like that too. Because I have people that I love and care for, and if it really came down to it, would I pull some crazy shit like that? I probably would. I'm not gonna lie. Like we're not saints. We have people we care for. We would do things for our loved ones that, very much like Aaron, we would probably destroy the world for. And that's not the best choice, but I understand where Aaron's perspective is. Where at the end, he even admits it. He's a slave to freedom. There was nothing he could do about his life, because all he saw was his end, and it all came down to Mikasa. So he didn't even know what was going to happen past his death. Like he just relied on his friends, trusted Mikasa, and I think Aaron's mental was completely destroyed, living the past, present, and future all at once, and just seeing death after death and trying to make his choices, trying to change his path. And I think that's what pretty much brought him down to, like, he wasn't normal anymore, seeing that, like, oh man, like every choice I make, it doesn't matter. And so he's like, screw it. I'm taking out 80% of the planet. Like, that's it. But I do like that it's also Armin that tells him, like, hey, like, there was other ways we could have done this. You didn't have to do this. And, you didn't have to say the things that you said to Mikasa. You didn't have to beat me up, but you still did it. And, I think I love that Armin's the one that critiques him, but as a friend, he still shows him compassion. Like, hey, you know what? You already made your choice, and I've killed people. We're going to hell together, bro. Like, they hug it out, and, he talks about, like, I'll see you in hell too, because you know what, we killed people. And I like that this in the anime they did this much more better than like how you guys said in the manga. Like it took me like a second read to catch on what Isayama was saying. I'm like, thank you for genocide. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I always felt it was like a mistranslation or something.
I think so too. I always
it's pretty accurate. I mean, it's essentially just like he's thanking him for the act that he committed and stuff like that. So it's pretty spot on. But
yeah,
like,
and that was a rough one. I was like, initially I was like, maybe they mistranslated that because some
Right.
like who knows? Maybe the translator must have written something wrong, but nope, it was pretty much dead on. And then just to see, after all this, everyone gets their memories back, which I loved. I really wish that they kind of showed Aaron's conversations with everyone else.
Yeah.
Instead of the character saying like, oh yeah, Aaron told me this, oh yeah, Aaron told me this, and then Peak's like, oh, I wish Aaron talked to me, like no one talked to me. But I wanted to ask you guys this because I feel like you guys know more about the Attack on Titan lore than I do. Does he brings them into the paths, and Levi and Mikasa also see the paths, so they can see it, but he just can't control them? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The Ackerman blood is like this. Yeah, it's like this special little like, they have a little more freedom to do what they need to do essentially. And they have part of the Titan power in them. So
Yeah, it was like a check and balance.
Yeah.
Which is why they were wiped out.
yeah, exactly. They were wiped out because they could kill the king essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, I was always kind of like confused on that. I was like, man, because Levi and Mikasa can see the paths, but when it came down to it, like they always kind of talked about how Aaron can choose to stop the Eldians, and even Armin brought it up, like, hey, if Aaron wanted to, why didn't he stop us?
Yeah.
Why did he give us the choice to transform and fight back? And so like that, I guess the dialogue between that kind of confused me. But seeing this ending, I think I told Salem this too. I wish that Aaron spoke with Levi too, but I think
that conversation.
Yeah, I think
another kick is warranted.
Yeah.
Probably that's probably why he didn't speak to Levi. Levi probably would have kicked him.
Yep.
With his good leg.
Yeah. Just repeatedly.
But do you think Levi would have said anything to Aaron though, like, or would he have just stayed silent?
I think I have such a hyperfixation on Levi. Obviously, like he's tattooed on me. It's so interesting to me because I think by the end of the series, his reaction is probably so much different than it would have been in the beginning. Because I think Levi probably empathizes with how Aaron is feeling. It's a soldier mindset, right? Like I have to do this really awful thing to make sure everyone's safe. And Levi's really familiar with doing that kind of thing, especially now that he realizes that Titans have always been people. He's killed people within the walls when they started to go against the scouts. He's had to kill scouts themselves when, that kind of internal thing started happening with Marley and Parody. We see Hanji doing it when she's shooting, like sniping the scouts who are looking for them and crying because she's like, these are people like I work with and we're comrades. So I think in a sense, that conversation with Levi probably would have been really productive for Aaron. I understand what you're doing and I understand, how you're feeling. And this is very much your choice. I don't think Levi would have tried to convince him otherwise. I think it would have been you choose what you choose and we choose what we choose. And whatever happens is what happens.
Yeah. It would have been a callback definitely to the, you can, choose to turn into a Titan or you can choose to trust us to protect you, that sort of thing. It probably would have been a callback to that. That would have been nice, actually.
Yeah, good that you brought that up too, Brandon, because I love that scene, where Levi's like, look, you can trust us or turn to a Titan, it doesn't matter, it's your choice. I think that's one of the, I guess, hardest hitting quotes too. That's one of the hardest hitting quotes in Attack on Titan, where Levi's like, we all have a choice and no regrets. Even his own miniseries, the No Regrets, in the book, like you can't look back on your choices. You make that choice and that you go with it. And I think, that's a big theme in Attack on Titan, right? Like everyone has a choice to do good or evil deeds. You have a choice to kill someone. You have a choice to, spare them. And to see all this finally unfold. And I just love to see that, at the end, once everything was over. And I love this callback too, right? Where Armin talks again, Armin is political, so he talks to the Marleyans like, "Hey, I'm Armin. I'm the one that killed the Attack Titan." Kind of reflects back to season 1 when he was defending Eren when Eren transformed. I love that parallel.
Yeah.
We almost see that frame for frame when he's talking to the Marleyans before he goes and does the political. He even drops his ODM the same way.
Yeah.
And is like, I'm Armin, and that's his skill. And I think I love when Isayama does those exact mirroring, because I mean it's the same. They are as they have always been, but are also just so fundamentally different.
Yeah. It tells to the way that he meticulously planned how this was going to end in such a good way. Like, you can't tell me this guy didn't have like 1,000 notes on a board somewhere, because like all the things that match up to the point, and he didn't just like think like, oh, I'm going to bring this back too, because it lines up too perfectly with how the story goes. Like it's everything is so meticulously ties back to what the theme of that character is and what that character represents, and how would that character be at the end of it. And it's crazy. It's just so good.
What did you guys think of the additional scene with Ymir?
It's in the manga where she is like, "Oh, you've always been watching that part."
Yeah, was that in the manga too? I don't recall.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what'd you guys think of like this whole, the whole point of Ymir, right? Because even not Armin, but Aaron's like, yeah, she was just in love with Fritz. Like, it's very simple, like nothing, no mega plot twist, like it was just, she was in love with Fritz and she chose to do this, and we were stuck with it, and that's what it was. And then all the way up to where she finds Mikasa, and then, she finally gets what she wanted out of Mikasa. So, Salem, we'll start with you. What did you think of Ymir's part in this story?
With the skill that I know Isayama has to make these parallels and to draw these themes out, I had actually a very big problem with the way that he framed Ymir's love, because that was the central of it, right? It was like she wanted to see if someone could choose otherwise. But we see how Ymir is kind of pulled into the king. And it felt kind of strange the way that was framed, of like, she was, first of all, her tongue was cut out, like she was forced to have children. Like, this was a really awful life. This was a really terrible life for Ymir. And I do understand, like, there's the Stockholm syndrome of like, maybe she really did eventually end up loving him. My issue with it was that it was supposed to parallel Eren and Mikasa, which it absolutely did not. As much as I dislike Eren, those are two very different scenarios that are happening. But in a way, I guess they still had the same choice of like killing or keeping the person they loved alive. I think it could have been done a lot better. Maybe if the Ymir scenario was, she grew up next to the king who eventually turned cruel and did this, that would make more sense in my head, of like having this relationship like Eren and Mikasa did, that really stemmed from like protection and protecting each other, and like was actually very like healthy way of like trying to like survive, to being a slave child, having your tongue cut out, all of these really horrible, awful things, and then eventually saying that she loved him so much that she wanted to see what someone else would make the choice of. I wish the mirror of those two situations were closer. In my brain, that would make it easier for me to stomach, okay, this was what Ymir wanted, because in turn I'm like, what is she really seeing? She's not seeing her own situation reflected, right? She's seeing the choice, maybe, yes, but certainly not everything else leading up to that. So that was my only kind of like, it felt really contrived to try and like really connect those two things. I mean, I guess in the end they were both kind of monsters to everybody else, but we never see the king anything other.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think was needed to make that smoother for me.
Right. I think what helped was help for me is the idea that you kind of have this twisted idea of what she has, of what it was, because that was her life. Like, yeah, it was awful. Yeah, she had her time. She didn't know anything else. Like, she was a slave since she was a child, so that was really the only perception she had. So then this person that she had that she had 3 daughters with, that he then fed her to, so the guy's he's a monster through everything. So I think it was I like the idea that like her like that twisted idea that she has of love. Like what's the choice of somebody else that would have that has that kind of love for someone, because she sees that love in Eren for Mikasa, but she doesn't really understand that difference that you pointed out, that this love comes from like an actual form of protection, or like cohesive relationship, rather than the twisted thing that she grew up with. It's like but I think it's kind of summed up in the very next line from Eren, where he says people are complicated. It's just, he literally says, like, like, we're fucked up. Like, we think things and then we do things that aren't what we think or what we thought. We're hypocrites to a fault. Like, it's just, we're messed up people. It's like people are complex, and they're not just like one parallel. And I kind of like that from an author standpoint, that like, yeah, you make characters as being parallels and being parables and pillars and these things that stand up these themes that you're writing. But people are, if they're going to be characters, they need to be complicated, they need to be hypocritical, they need to not be they can be pariahs in a way. So that's enough P words for today, because like P is on my word calendar today, sorry. But yeah, it's like they can't, they have to have these different things, and not everything's going to be tied up pretty like perfectly, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think that makes sense. I also just wish she was fleshed out a little
Yeah.
bit more.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
she
same.
has no other character other than this conversation.
I did want, like, I wanted to feel attached to her and be like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh,
Same.
like, it's such a big thing, because she's so central to the end.
Right.
If maybe she wasn't as
Yeah.
pivotal to everything, I'd be like, well, it's fine, it's the end. But I did
Right.
want it to see more. I mean, we see the pig scene, which I
Yeah.
think pretty. I mean, that's how it all happens, right? It's just pigs.
Right.
I was totally fine not knowing why. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the better parts of that story, of not knowing why, because we don't need to.
Yeah, I would even posit that they kind of showed you why before that scene. They showed you a good why, as when Eren broke her free and said, like, "Hey, you want this, don't you?" That she wants to end the world. Like, I think that's a better like sense of like where she was at, because she lived this miserable life, and then finally someone gives her the agency to break everything. And it's just that look in her face when he grabs her, that
Yeah.
look of just rage and horror, that just, it's so good to the idea that this is what Eren is unleashing. He's unleashing complete rage across the world. And yeah, I think that's a better thing than doing the whole love category. But he seems obsessed with like cycling everything together, it seems like. So he was like, yeah, they were in love, sure.
What did you guys think of like how there's even in the anime, there's like a small little like snippet of just like a what if moment. It had Ymir not taking the spear, and Fritz is dead in the chair, and like she's hugging her daughters. Like I like that too. Like just oh, this was her other choice. Like she could have just done that. I like that, but it was only like a second of that, and then just to see that like Ymir finally like just acknowledges Mikasa and just disappears. I kind of wish you guys brought up really good points, because I didn't even think this deep with Ymir. I just didn't like that she was like they gave her this whole Stockholm syndrome thing. Like I was more on the idea of like just her wanting to be mad at the world. I thought that would have been good enough. And then Mikasa's the one that changes her mind. She goes, oh, so this is what real love is. This is what real love does, because Mikasa killed the one that she loved to save humanity.
Right.
And I thought that would have been a great character growth for Ymir herself. Like, oh, okay, so I don't need to be mad at the world. Like I've seen what people can do. And, it takes a lot of love to kill someone that you don't want to kill. And I think I thought that would have been great, like a great full circle moment for Ymir, instead of her being like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that was part of why they showed the choice. That was her reflecting on the idea of like, maybe it would have been better if he did die, and I did live, and I just got to live with my daughters, because that then leads, I think, I always interpreted that to leading to the theater scene, because that's like the alternate world without Titans that would just be our world essentially. So
So we get to the end finally. Mikasa takes Eren's head. I always thought, like, seeing all the memes on the internet, like I just thought it was funny seeing one video where like she says goodbye to everyone and she just walks across the ocean with Eren's head.
Yeah, I don't know how she got security, but she went.
And so, like she gets to bury Aaron because she's like, if we stay here, he's not gonna get a proper burial. So she leaves. And then I think years go by, we get to see the final like epilogue of the show. Like you see the Marleyans and the Eldians are together. You see Levi in the wheelchair, a more grown Gabby and Falco, and then you see like our warriors together going back to Parody Island to do more like hero work or hero talk in the politics and stuff because Historia Crystal calls them back. But what did you guys think of like how they kind of changed up this part too? Because I liked it in the manga where you see Gabby and Falco pushing Levi in the wheelchair. I thought I like that more versus him like being the one handing out candy. What did you guys think of that? Like these additional scenes that they have in the anime.
It adds a little bit more to just to wrap things up because there's a bit of a rushness that feels in the original manga. I think people feel like it was rushed. I didn't feel that way. I thought it was pretty clear as to what he wanted to get across. But yeah, all the scenes at the tree. So, is your opinion that she married John at some point? Because I feel like
No.
like who should no, you don't think it was John?
I don't think she ever did.
She's with somebody at the end there, and it's like, was it John? You think it's John? I think it's John.
It makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I mean, like in the manga, maybe, but the way
quick.
how they did the anime, I was like, nah, that's not John.
He too afraid. He too cold feet.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think Mikasa probably just like he looks too much like a horse, man. Like, nah.
Get that horse face. Can't do it.
I think he's the only person that would honor Aaron in the way that she would need.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Oh, I wanted to touch up on this too because I like Brandon's take on this. Like because you like Rico, Brandon. So like,
yeah,
they show Rico at the end.
Rico gets to be at the end. I was like, yes, Rico.
She's still there.
She's a Jaegerist though.
She's a Jaegerist, but man, I freaking love Rico, man. She was I couldn't wait for her to be in more scenes, and she's in no other scenes after that.
But you know what? She was safe.
Yes, she was. She did get to be like she didn't have a horrific death, and man. But yeah, it's funny.
Because I never caught on like at the end where you see Sasha's family.
Yeah.
Again, I heard this on your podcast, Brandon. Like seeing Sasha's family like kind of have this look of disdain when the Jaegers are like rising up and they're like, yeah, let's go Jaegers.
Yeah.
And you see Sasha's family and even Niccolo, like they're in the background, like, oh my god, these guys are crazy,
Yeah.
I love seeing that contrast where like Sasha's family's like they have no part of the Jaegers faction, and there's still people.
Sasha's dad, like way in the beginning of the season, we see him talk about the forest.
Yep, the forest.
So I don't think he's ever, even when Sasha joined, he was probably like, you have to get out of that. Like I feel like he was one of the few characters that was like step back from the very beginning of like, I know what this does. I can see it. And we shouldn't be partaking.
Yeah. I say it every time I talk about this series when people, you get these arguments online about how it's in favor of fascism, the show, and blah, blah, blah. And they don't seem to realize that the real moral, it's in favor of genocide is like, no. All of these things are bad. It is very clear that all these things are. The only moral choice that is given through this whole thing is Sasha's family and to get out of the forest. You have to get out of. You have to lead people away from this idea of hatred, this idea of loss, and how you have to blame someone for your loss, and all of this. To reach out and to give their daughter's murderer a home. It's like just like all this. Not even a murderer, just because it was combat, so it's not even like like I wouldn't even call it murder. It was just she was firing into a crowd of what she perceived as enemies. So like their daughter's killer, they bring her into her home and forgive her. Like it's just like because they know what it wasn't done out of a malice situation, because she was indoctrinated as this child, and that spun her away from her indoctrination. Gabby's she's the microcosm for the whole thing, and that's the only thing that pulled her out. Was the only moral choice was to get out of the forest, which was that's the moral choice. And people, for some reason, because it's in the background, seething at the idea of the Jaegerists. Like they don't see that as like the moral thing. They think that it's like a rallying cry to see the Jaegerists or something, and it's like, no, this is supposed to be hateful. Like everybody sees that, you know.
I do. I think what Isayama did it so well in this series that we got to watch it play out in real time, right?
Yeah.
Where like fans of the series are like, I'm a Jaegerist. We're like very like into it. And I loved seeing that because it's so realistic, right? Like we have our one perspective that we've had the whole series. And I think, to be fair, if I didn't have this weird chip on my shoulder for Aaron the entire series, I would have been right there too. I just thought he was annoying and I hated him. So it was a lot easier for me to be like, oh, these are bad choices. Because I didn't have anything that was like, oh, Aaron, which I mean, I still did because I loved the Scouts. I loved what they were doing and I wanted them to win.
Yeah.
So getting to see it play out in real time. And of course, you see it play out in history of you have your one perspective. So having Sasha's family also be from an isolated area, like way out in the walls where like they were just in the forest, also kind of lends to this idea of like, when you're only in it, you can't see past it, can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. So I think it was so well done to also get to interact with the fandom on that level of like, when the Jaegerists really started to rise up and there was this big division within the fandom of like what was right, what was wrong. And we get this really haunting scene of the Jaegerists, saying Shinzo Sasage or like dedicate your heart.
Right.
With pickets. And the background music is so haunting. And I feel like a lot of people didn't sit in that moment of like, this is not what that meant. Now it means something different.
Yeah. They're twisting Erwin's words to something more malice.
I was devastated, and I had watch parties at my house. So all my friends are like, yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is the death of the Scouts, right? Like this is the death of dedicating your heart to humanity, because now it's dedicating your heart to parody, not to humanity. So he's just done it so well that you feel it the whole way through.
Yeah. And to even touch on, sorry, we're talking over you, Ricky.
No, you're good.
But to touch on that some more, just like throughout history, you have like reprehensible behavior by certain factions and everything. Those came from something. It wasn't like bred from like, oh, evil people were born and they did bad things. No, it was bred from these bad things happening to these people. Then they have this idea that what they're doing is justified to these people. It's so like perfectly done that there's no just like one, like even the essence of life was just trying to survive. It wasn't trying to kill people. It was, oh, there's something to latch onto, and like now I can survive and now I can create these Titan things and blah, 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 whatever, creates yeast and expands people, whatever, the science behind it is. But when you do it in that approach, no one's a trumpet, people are characters, and that's so much more impactful with a story, is when you have a character that's like, oh, I understand why he's doing this, even if I disagree with it, I know why he's doing it. So, and that's like everybody in this show. Flock, who is horrible and like literally like the most like visually stimulated as being a quote unquote Third Reich Nazi. They even give him the Ruger. They give him he's holding a Ruger and has like a band across his arm as he's smiling. It's like, okay, so we know what this is, right? But like, you understand how he got to that point. And then when he's making that rallying cry to kill Mikasa and Jean, like he's saying the same thing that like Aaron or Levi or Erwin were saying to protect parody, to protect their people. And it's like he's saying the same things that they're trying to kill the characters we like, because they're trying to stop the genocide. It's nuts. It's so well done that you get to see all these different sides.
You guys bring up so many good points. I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, I'm just enjoying hearing you guys talk about this, because like I love hearing other people's perspective on Attack on Titan. I'm very like on the surface level. When I was talking with Salem before, I was full on Jaegers. So and so I was full on Jaegers, and even Salem was like, oh my god, another one. So like I was full on Jaegers, but now after rewatching and kind of just
you stop, but you look, you reflect it. That's the point.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like it's a wonderful thing to see, and I think it's a life skill. You know what I mean? Like to be able to critically engage with stories like this. I love seeing people go through that process of like being like, okay, well, you know, maybe there are some things here. Maybe there are some things here that are not good. I just think it's a great exercise of mind regardless, but certainly with stories that we love as well.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to see that it takes a story like Attack on Titan to give us like real life, like critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
You know, like if we brought up like real life stuff, no one would want to talk about it. But because it's Attack on Titan, they're like, oh yeah, you know, what's your thoughts on this? And not realizing that we are talking about like real life situations through fiction.
Yeah. And it goes through such a transformation too. I have a friend who was loving Attack on Titan as he was watching it and turned it off the minute Eren came out of the Titan. He didn't care about the Titan shifters and like the whole idea of like Titan shifters. Like, nah, I don't care about that. I don't want to see that. Like, I wanted to see a show where they fight monsters and stuff. And I'm like, but that's what they do through the whole show. You gotta watch it. They're fighting monsters.
Humanity is the monster.
It's the point, man. You gotta watch it.
I feel like a lot of people too, when it switched to season 4,
Yeah.
dropped the series as well. Because like, well, it got like really, it was more of a political drama. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's still the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
That's what happened to my parents.
Yeah. It's growing, you know.
My parents dropped the show at season 3 when they fought Kenny, and my mom's like, "Why are they fighting people?" I'm like, "Mom, this is the point of the show. Like,
the show.
it's not the Titans, it's the people."
How do you drop a season when you see Kenny? Kenny is so freaking cool. Like as a villain.
Scenes with the ODM.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Levi screamed to Kenny and him escaping just to shoot them with the gun. Oh my god, dude. Phenomenal.
Armin having to kill his first person, and it's not even a Titan. It's a person first.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Salem, you brought up like when they shot Armin's mouth. Like I wanted to kind of touch upon this too. Like when they killed Samuel, I'm like, dude, Samuel was in the beginning.
He was there.
You have to think Sasha was the one that
yeah.
And then Armin was the one to kill him.
Like, oh my god. Just I love how Itsuyama brings that back too. Like characters that you don't think would still be around and they're there and then they're gone. Like they're not crucial to the plot, but it's just cool callbacks. But you know, before we end things on the show, I do want to talk about this last 5 minutes of the movie where they added on the extra panels that Isayama drew. This alternate timeline, or I guess you guys could say like post, you know, after the credits of the movie, you know, you see the world build and nukes and all that stuff, and then they added on like Mikasa being old and she gets buried. And I want to touch up on this. Like we talked about it a little bit, but I personally don't think Mikasa got married, which is why she was in the white dress at the end. I believe she stayed, I guess, pure for Eren.
Okay.
And she didn't even get rid of the scarf either.
That's what I interpreted as. She had a child that she took to Eren's grave.
Oh, I took it as she stayed like a virgin for Eren. Because there's also like a music video too that they did where like it kind of mirrors her in the ground, like being buried, and then like she wakes up like young again. I forgot what the song was called. It was like it was part of the Attack on Titan like ending music video, and like they added that too. I thought that was really cool. And oh my god, there's just so much we could talk about with the music too. But so we get to see a alternate like reincarnation of our main 3 in the theater. They very much like us. They geek out about, you know, the Attack on Titan lore, and I love seeing that, like, you know, it was the nerdy Armin, goth Mikasa, and as they walk out, there's so many little subtle like hints or cameos or whatever you want to call it, like a grown Levi, right? Like he has nutrition, he's tall, he's still a clean freak.
Yeah.
There's also, you see, was it Marco that was in the background? Like he was dead. You see the 2 kids that were killed in Marley. They walk out the theater together. And there was also Ymir with her 3 daughters. They're walking down the street.
Yeah.
There's like Maria's Cafe, and then there's also like something with Niccolo on it. And I think you kind of see him in the background cleaning a table. But it comes down to this moment where the 3 of them talk about the movie, and Mikasa's like, I like the ending. It was very simple. It was happy. We got to see our characters and all that stuff. While Armin, very much like us, just like we waited 10 years for this. There's so much to talk about, and like he goes into this whole rant. I love it. But what was your guys' thoughts? What was Salem? We'll start with you. What was your thoughts on seeing like this additional moment with our main three?
Sure. So I actually think this was like an event from Isayama because it came after the original ending. And I don't know if you guys remember when the final chapter came out, it was like a storm of people being upset.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like our three characters embody the three reactions, right? And unfortunately, I did align with Aaron on that one. But we have like Armin, who is really like, this loose end is still here. This loose end, it wasn't clear what was happening. We have someone who's like kind of unsatisfied with the ending. And then we also have Aaron, who's like, I was just happy to be here with you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah. Very free rent-esque.
To be fair, like I started reading this manga that hit personally for me when I was in high school. So really has been like this huge chunk of my life. So when it ended, it was just kind of like, what a ride we just all went on together. And I remember I'm in the Reddit, but so like even in the Reddit, people were like so upset, and I was like, guys, we've all just been chatting about this for like years.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. So I will say that was great.
And you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. Just the idea that, again, it was definitely an event from Isayama. He definitely was he wanted to put out that one message of just like, I'm glad people are still talking about this thing. I'm glad people are passionate enough to have enjoyed it as much, to talk about it as much, which is probably the most that's probably the best thing an author can say about his work when people are like complaining about it or saying that it didn't do this or it didn't quite hit this. It's just be like, you know what? Glad you read it. It's like, because you can't satisfy everybody. You just can't. And there's definitely things that, we talked about with the ending with the thanks for genocide, stuff like that. There's definitely things to critique always, but I like the fact that even through re-experiencing it through people seeing the anime as well, because this is one of the very few that I started reading the manga before the anime even aired. I was reading this beforehand, and so it was really cool to see it kind of become an anime, because the anime aired I think maybe like a few months after I started reading it, or after I started reading the manga. So it was really cool to just see it actually happen, and I got to read the rest of it because I was like, I started reading it. No reason to wait for the anime, luckily, because it took 8 years between 2 seasons. Or 5 years or something.
That's a whole other stuff right there, too.
Yeah. It's 2012, I think. And then the next season, I don't think it happened until like 2016. It's nuts. But yeah, just to like experience that and to have people re-experience it by watching the anime who didn't watch the manga or didn't read the manga. It was just very cool to see, and just the even when they have like crazy reactions or like they get something wrong that I didn't agree with, it's just like, now we all experienced this thing and it was cool and it was awesome, and we're still talking about it.
I think what Isayama has done is definitely something very unique that we haven't seen in like manga or anime in a very long time. Because like you guys said, this is something people are still talking about today. And I spoke with Salem earlier, this relates to a lot of like historical moments in the moments of today's world. Everyone's comparing Attack on Titan. There's so many like metaphorical things and so many like symbolism going on with Attack on Titan to today's world. It's just the art that Isayama has given us as readers. It's definitely like a must read or must watch show. Like it's there. It's this series has done so many things, and I'm glad to have like caught on to this show, when I did, because I can't I get so envious seeing people like who say I'm watching Attack on Titan for the first time. Like, oh my god, I hate you. I wish I could re-experience Attack on Titan for the first time again. Like that's how much I love this show. But thank you guys so much for your input, man. Like I knew this conversation was going to be phenomenal. You know, hearing Brandon's point of views on his podcast, and then being able to speak with Salem these past few years. You know, very much like Aaron, I'm glad to have. You know, I'm glad to have experienced this stuff with good friends like you guys. You know, it's very cool to know that I can geek out about Attack on Titan with people that love the show versus like my other friends who think I'm crazy for just liking this anime.
Is that the one where the mom gets ate the first episode?
Yeah.
They just stop
I
after
still,
that.
to this day, best first episode of any anime that I have ever seen.
Oh yeah, so good.
I think they definitely started that trend, that they set that trend where we need shock factor for that first episode.
Yeah, just a gut punch right at the start. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just good stuff.
So, you know, this has been great. I know, Salem, you got stuff to do today. Yeah, so
In
I know. So
Ooh.
fancy. Okay.
I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, for folks, please follow Brandon on the Animation Destination podcast. You can find him on podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Salem on Instagram. I'll have the links in the description below. Again, follow Salem because her stories in Japan it's amazing. Like I love seeing the stories. And again, you know, keep an eye out. Eventually I'll have Salem or Brandon, maybe both, back on another episode or so to talk about other anime things or whatever that we enjoy. But this has been great. Thank you guys so much for your time. And thank you guys. This is episode 188 of Spoiler Force Podcast. And thank you guys and have a good day.